Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CoinDrop Podcast, episode 84. I hope you like the new intro. That is thanks to our fantastic editor, Mike. He decided to put in some work since we hadn't changed that thing since beta. And on episode 84, I think we're a little bit outside of beta. So hope you like the new sound effects, the new visuals. If you got epilepsy from it, don't sue us. Tim is here with us as well as Mike. And it's been a week for me, guys. How about you guys?
It's just been some basic ass week to me. Basic bitch week.
Basic white bitch week. Got it.
Yep.
Mike?
I, for the most part, it was pretty slow, simple here at home. I started my new job as an appraiser as like a third-party company for insurance companies, which is the only way I could think to explain it to people is because they ask me like 9 million questions. And I'm like, I can't answer this question for you. I'm the middleman. I take pictures. I send it to another middleman who reads and looks at those pictures and then reads the reports and the notes in the work order claim. And then he sends it to another middleman.
Are you in a cult?
There's 3 of us.
Is this a pyramid scheme? Did you join Cutco? What's happening here?
Who cares? They're paying him well. That's really what matters.
Then they talk to the insurance people. But the fact that it passes through like 3 different people's hands before the insurance even sees it is like wild to me. I'm loving it because like I get to travel Colorado earlier this week. I think it was like Monday. I got to drive all the way to Nebraska.
Jesus.
And I'm paid like
bit of a drive.
They cover gas. It was cool. I get $23 an hour to start. After my 60-day mark, I think I get like $25 an hour, and I get to see this quarter of the country while I'm doing it. So
yeah.
Can't beat that.
That was actually one of the things I liked about the job that I was doing when I was traveling to Home Depot. Was all over the Quad State area out here. Was just the travel, getting to see this part of the country and going different places. I mean, I drove all the way out to Billings and as far south as like Edmonds, Oregon or something like that. I don't remember where it was. Anyways, that was good. Going away from the family wasn't. So little bit on the top of the episode here. This is our last Twitch stream. This is it. This is the final one. But that doesn't mean we're done with the show. We're moving to Facebook, of all places. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully we see an audience over there.
I was just going to state it when you were done. We finished.
We're going to be moving over there. Our first stream for February will be next week. That is our only live episode we're doing moving forward. We will be doing one a month. So February's live stream episode will be the first weekend of the month, the 1st of February. After that, we will also be announcing a community event stream that day where we will be also announcing a poll for you guys to vote on what game we should play during said live stream. So that'll be a community event.
Let me add a little bit of clarity here. What he means is we're going to have one live streamed episode a month, but every other week we will be recording our stream. You guys won't be able to see it. That'll be for Patreon subscribers only. So you can still get, you'll have to come to our Patreon.
No, this is going to YouTube still. It's still going to YouTube.
Yeah.
That's
so we
true.
just won't be streaming.
It won't be streamed. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
We're getting there, guys. It's a new change. Bear with us, but we're trying to be as clear as we can. If you have questions, consider coming over to the Discord. We'll make everything nice and clear for you over there and be more than happy to answer any questions you have. If you want to support us on Patreon, you do get extra content. We've actually... Tim and I workshopped a new name. We are now calling our Patreon side the Slow Attack News, because we're going to go a little bit deeper into some of our quickfire topics over there, as well as some extended content. Mike gave me a look like it was kind of stupid, but I like the idea of having quickfire and slow attack. I think those sound good together.
I should have given you a face because I was really talking earlier about how like when Tim goes on his digressions that we should call it Tim Talk, like TED Talk, but Tim Talk. So at the end of it, you could be like, "Thank you for coming to my Tim Talk."
Nice. I like it. I like it.
My Tim digression.
Yep, Tim digression. Like time dilation, but it's Tim digression.
There you go. Welcome to my TD. Not to be confused with ED, but my TD.
Wow. All right. There's the TD right there.
Thanks for coming to my TED Talk, guys.
So if you want to check out our Patreon, it is patreon.com/CoinDrop Pod. You can get more content over there. We curate some upcoming games and things of that nature, go a little bit deeper into some of our quickfire, and have some exclusive topics over there. As well as all that content, you also get it a day early. Our audio side on that side comes out Tuesdays. So, if you want it a little bit early, you get it that way. That being said, let's talk about some games. There's some news.
Before we move into it, before we move into our main topics, I just wanted to do an update. Last week on the Quickfire, we talked about how Dragon Age Veilguard performed pretty terribly. The number for how many copies they sold was accurate, the 1.5 million copies. The amount they missed their goal by was a little bit different. Last week we had heard that they were 85% less than their projected sales. It was actually 50% less, which is still bad, don't get me wrong. But in any case, that actually did cause a $6 billion drop in their stocks for them, which is roughly 17% of their value. And to also add a little caveat, FC 25, which is the FIFA game, is also partly to blame for that. But yeah.
We might be seeing the end of BioWare. Granted, as we all know, a lot of those veteran devs moved on to other indie studios and other AAA studios, so they are by no means the same team. There are a few still there. Yeah, there are a few, but not many. When they were discussing, we'll get to our main topics here in just a second. When they were discussing the possibility of doing a Dragon Age Origins remaster, one of the devs they interviewed said that there's like 3 other people besides him that know how to work that engine, so it's not likely to happen because they've been around since the original Dragon Age Origins. So
this brings doubt to my trust in their ability to bring Mass Effect back.
No, I don't expect them to do well at all.
I'm still mad.
I can add, I did just read something today where someone who left BioWare stated that the studio has never been more laser focused on a Mass Effect.
Yeah, I did see that as well.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, we'll see.
Yeah.
After what they did to Dragon Age, I'm not convinced.
Fuck Dragon Age after what they did to Anthem for Dragon Age.
Yeah.
That's the real issue here. You killed what could have been a great game for a shit.
And you delayed the death too.
Drug it the fuck out, man.
We're 10 talking. Let's just go.
All right. Let's talk about what we got on screen. For our audio listeners, there was an Xbox Dev Direct that happened relatively recently, and they showed off some pretty great content.
Great.
That was a bit of a fumble there. It was a bad time to pause, I guess is the best way to say that. Some pretty great content. And it announced something we were unaware of. So, Tim, why don't you tell us what happened?
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and start with the unaware. The reason why I say this is because they talked about the Direct before that it happened. I think they showed it like a week and a half before, something like that. And they said, we're going to be showing off South of Midnight, Doom the Dark Ages, Expedition 33, and a surprise reveal or a surprise new game. And everyone was like, is it going to be Final Fantasy 16? Is it going to be Final Fantasy 7 Remake? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that?
I think we actually had a huge speculation sidetrack of Fallout 5, which was very funny.
Yeah, we did.
It was very funny. 2 episodes ago, you can check that out.
Yeah, and so really, honestly, the 3 games that weren't Ninja Gaiden 4 we all know about them already. We've seen plenty of gameplay. We know what they are. So those are like super back burner. Nobody cared about those. Technically, if you consider Ninja Gaiden 4, just the fact that the series is coming back is awesome.
Yes.
Also, the fact that the OG team, Ninja Theory, not Ninja Theory, Team Ninja, and Platinum Games are working on this. And then the thing that really got me is they've been working on this for almost 7 years already.
Wow.
And we had no clue this was coming. Absolutely none. Like there wasn't hints, there wasn't whispers, nothing. And it was just like
rumor.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah, absolutely nothing. And that rarely happens.
That
rarely ever happens.
That is an ironclad NDA right there. That's what that is. Yeah. That is somebody holding a gun to developers' heads and reading every freaking message they send, man. Holy crap! 7 years.
They clocked in with a shotgun load every single day. Right, and it looks so good too. I mean, it looks exactly like what you expect out of a Ninja Gaiden game.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly kind of curious of how the teams are working together, because Platinum Games they've always been sort of like the horror studio that just goes out and helps make action games for other studios, and it seems like they're still keeping that. But I believe it was Final Fantasy 16, they helped with bosses. Maybe it wasn't 16. I think it was 16. They helped with the bosses in 16. But in any case, like they've been doing that a lot. So are they going to do the same thing on this one, or are they helping with combat as a whole, or what's the synergy going on there?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm just going to say this. I, for one, am very happy that in 2 weeks' time, we saw the announcement of vampires being cool again and ninjas being cool again. I'm getting the 90s vibes, and I'm just sitting here counting the clock until Tenchu comes back. I want my stealth assassins. I want my stealth assassins.
I mean, we can look at this past year. There were so many games over 2023 that in 2024. I mean, not 2023. But there were so many games that, like, I just felt like we kept saying, it feels like PS2 era again. Yeah. It feels like PS2 era. Just so many games going back to what makes games fun. Well, there was plenty of blunders too, Suicide Squad and etc. But there was also enough, basically, developers doing effectively what Sven said at the Game Awards. Yeah. Make a game you want to play. And so, hopefully that's this,
I mean, it looks like it, right? It looks like I will admit I never played Ninja Gaiden 2 or 3, but I was a huge fan of the first one, and it was soul crushing. There was actually I still to this day remember going to fight the Bone Dragon boss with literally no health. I think I fought him literally one shot the entire fight. I fought him, no joke, for months, like hundreds of times, because you had no choice to
have a perfect run.
Exactly. And it was because that's prior to Dark Souls. Like that was the first moment of just like incredible, insurmountable challenge, and then rising to it. Like
when you say this is prior to Dark Souls, Ninja Gaiden is what people used to compare hard games to, not Dark Souls.
Yes. Yeah.
Literally.
So I never played 2 or 3, but I am excited that they're doing this remake of 2 so that I can play it. And from what you said, what you were looking at earlier, it looks fantastic. From what I've read and heard, it sounds like the team really poured their heart and soul into it and made it a really solid game for people who are returning to the franchise, never played it in the first place, or are experiencing it for the first time as its own modern take on the game. So if you like ninjas, which if you don't, who the fuck are you and why are you here?
Yeah, what?
What's wrong with you? Are you an alien or a cowboy? Because those are the only two that don't like ninjas.
Right.
If you like ninjas and you've never played Ninja Gaiden, I highly recommend it. So
yeah, I'm actually watching this earlier here too, and it looks like there might even be another character, like a new character you might be able to play as, because the Ninja Gaiden Stigmas gave you the choice to play some of the female characters too. And
I'm gonna add an asterisk to what Russ said. If you like ninjas and also like throwing your controller through your TV, then you should play Ninja Gaiden.
Get a wrist strap. It's probably a good idea. Get a wrist strap.
Yeah. The one thing I'm really liking about this is it doesn't seem like they're shying away from all the gore that the previous games used to have.
Yeah.
If you watch the trailer, there's limbs and stuff being cut off and whatnot all over the place. Heads going everywhere. Plenty of blood.
Gore, like it was ever done on purpose.
Yes, but then they're sticking to that, which I'm happy with.
It was to the extreme the way like Demolition Man and like 80s action movies were, right? Like it was overdone for the sake of overdoing, but it was fantastic that it was overdone. So
yes.
Yeah.
It just remains to be seen if they continue to give Ayane, ridiculously physics-defying boobs going all over the place.
I'm cool with it. I'm good. Let's do it, dude.
Speaking of,
that's why Russ had no health when he was fighting the bone boss.
He was focused on the wrong thing.
Hey, I cannot confirm or deny what teenage Russ was looking at the time.
Right. Speaking of Ayane and Ryu Hayabasa, they actually at the same time during the developer direct, they announced and launched Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, which is a remake of Ninja Gaiden 2.
Yeah. And
it is an impressive remake. The only thing that I'm unhappy with is it's $50, which is kind of a lot for such an old game. Even though it is, I was telling them before the podcast started, it is an impressive upgrade. You can watch some comparison videos, and it's a pretty huge upgrade as far as graphics are concerned. But that's like the major thing. Actually, it's not. It's got an upgrade graphically, and it's really nice. However, they've removed a lot of stuff from the game, like content, like costumes and game modes, reskins, and things like that. And there's a lot of people that aren't very happy about that. Understandably, I mean, why would you remove content from a new version?
You're removing content and then adding.
Yeah.
I think it's $20 more expensive than it was that generation 2.
Yeah. Well, hell, did the game launch at $30?
No,
It
definitely.
might have been $39.99.
Yeah,
That sounds more correct. $40 sounds correct for
$40 for a main game back then. I would imagine it would have launched at $50, but man,
I think
I thought PS2 games didn't hit 50 until like the Slim refresh is when games started to go up in price.
I don't remember. I thought PS2 was always $50, but I mean it's such a long time.
I was like 9, and all my games came from GameStop in the pre-owned $5 bin. So the fuck do I know?
I mean,
like I said, I could be wrong too. I don't.
If I remember correctly, Tim, you and I, when we worked at Game Crazy, we worked when the price hike happened from the jump from 50 to 60. Because if I remember correctly, yes, that was PS3.
He's talking 40 to 50.
PS2 era.
Yeah, I don't.
PS2.
I'm pretty sure PS2 capped at 50 for new games, and then PS3
I'm pretty
was
sure
60.
that was the standard.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure 50
PS2
was the standard.
the standard was 50, and then the PS3, I think when it launched, actually, it just came with a $60 price tag, and yeah, this gen started kind of at 60. And, yeah.
Did they now announce release dates for the 2 remake or 4?
The 2 remake launched on Thursday with the developer direct. It's
nice. Already
if
out.
you have Game Pass or PC or PlayStation, then you can buy it wherever you want.
Hell yeah.
Or play it on Game Pass. Yeah.
Or play it on Game Pass. Awesome.
That's why it's $50 because PS5 players have to actually buy it.
Well, PC players too. There's people on Steam and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean that's where I'd buy it personally, but that's just me.
Yeah.
But
I mean the Steam version is actually better than the Game Pass version. That's a little bit of the news about it.
I've noticed some of the games that come out from Xbox Studios that the version on Steam is somehow better than the first party version that would go on Game Pass.
That sounds right.
Yeah, well, so that's
Steam
actually a very
superiority.
common thing with Game Pass. Is the Game Pass version is always the worst version, and it's not necessarily worse in like they've downgraded graphics or anything, but it's usually
It's just,
lacking
stability.
things, certain features or stability. You might lack the DLC, which I don't think DLC ever comes in a Game Pass game without paying for it. But like in this case with Ninja Gaiden 2, it actually doesn't have DLSS on the Game Pass version, even if you have the PC Game Pass version.
Wow.
You just don't have it, which is a crazy feature like missing to me, especially when you consider that it's kind of an impressive looking game and you need to have a
probably need
PC.
it.
Yeah, you need it basically. And that's a strange omission if you ask me.
I mean, or you could just buy a good card.
Yeah.
Or you could just have 20 gigs of visual RAM, whatever.
Well, just open a 4090. Like, what the fuck?
There you go. Right.
Yeah.
The weird the other weird thing to me too is that Ninja Gaiden 2's remaster, it's only getting a physical version on PS5, not Xbox.
Weird.
Yeah. Like we've talked about it before that the vast majority of Xbox sales have been the Series S, like 3/4 of them have been Series S, and so those guys can't do physical.
Right.
They don't have a PlayStation's style
sense.
detachable disc drive.
Right.
But even still though, like there's still a lot of people that would want to buy it, and I've actually seen people lament that on X. But still, they're foregoing that. So it's an interesting choice.
Very much so.
It doesn't happen terribly often.
So is there anything else new shown off about not minutes to midnight, south of midnight? Is that what it was?
So we're talking about Iron Maiden's 2 minutes. 2 minutes to midnight.
Whatever it's south of midnight, right? Is that what it is?
Midnight.
Okay, yeah. Because that game looks pretty
that's
cool when they
actually-
showed it off.
So when I originally watched the trailer, the very first gameplay trailer, I don't know if they fixed this since then, but when they first showed it, the characters like outside of combat had like almost a stop motion feel to them, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. It just felt wrong to me. Whenever there was combat involved, that disappeared. So that's good because you don't have that strange
stuttery look,
trippiness. Yeah. And I don't know if they fixed that since then, or if that's an intentional thing. I don't know. I'll be honest with you, from the developer direct, that's the only trailer I didn't watch because I'm not exactly very excited about it after that first trailer.
Okay. Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but I mean, I know there's a lot of people that are looking forward to it.
No.
Well, I got 2, so fuck you.
You've already got it.
There's supposed to be people that are looking forward to it. There's also a lot of people that are calling it Sweet Baby Inc. DEI, shit. But I haven't seen any of that in there, so I have no idea.
But when it comes to that game, like that doesn't. it's a unique story. They're not adapting something that exists. That's it's its own. It's its own thing. Even if it is influenced by DEI or Sweet Baby Inc., I don't personally care as long as the content is good. Right. That's my only desire. And I love Cajuns. Gambit's always been one of my favorite X-Men since like the 90s TV show. I love Louisiana. So I'm for it. Yeah, like I love the culture. I guess. Yeah, like
the culture is pretty cool, especially if you go south. And that's the one reason why I'm semi interested in it, because I know a little bit about Louisiana culture, you know, whatnot. Obviously, I lived here for 12 years, but it'd be interesting to see how it performs and if it's going to be worth playing or not.
I'll tell you.
Actually, so I'm watching this trailer. That snake thingamajig she talked to did have that like sort of jitteriness.
Yeah.
So I would assume that's probably a design decision.
I think it might be. Or it's just bad. I don't know, optimization, because some scenes I'm seeing what you're talking about, and some it doesn't look like it's there. It's very strange.
Nice and smooth.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting. I will tell you what, though, man. After becoming a celiac, I definitely miss beignets. God, dude. Those are some of the greatest gluten death traps in the world.
Unfortunately, bread is some of the best desserts and delectable. Bread's amazing.
Yes, I miss it.
I'm not doing it either at the moment. I'm not a celiac, but I'm not doing it either. So.
Yeah. It won't kill you if you eat it. It will kill me. So
no. Yeah, exactly.
And it sucks. But the return of Ninja Gaiden is great, but we also got the return of something else very recently. Havoc, the physics engine, has just shown off a new tech demo, and while it's not necessarily the first one they've shown off in 10 years, it's the deepest look we've had in 10 years. So Havoc, for those of you who don't know, used to be kind of like the go-to physics engine for most games during the PS3 and 360 era. I mean, I think, Tim, you walked over to your shelf and just started pulling games off and was like, that one's got Havoc, this one's got Havoc, that one doesn't, this one does. It was synonymous with so many games, from Battlefield to Jak and Daxter to Assassin's Creed. Just everybody
pretty much everyone used it because it was the de facto physics system. Why make a new one when someone can just make it where you can plug it into your game?
Exactly.
I don't think there was a single PS3 game that didn't use Havoc except for
that's
actually Guitar Hero still used Havoc because the character designs had like clothing animations.
Moving hair and stuff.
Required physics.
Mm-hmm.
So that's wild.
I think a few of the games that didn't use it were Grand Theft Auto, because they used the Euphoria engine. Grand Theft Auto 4 used Euphoria, and so did Star Wars Force Unleashed. And that was also a phenomenal physics engine, but it was very underutilized for whatever reason, whether it be cost or who knows. But what you're seeing on screen now, for those of you who are watching, is the footage that Havoc has released. And Tim's got some thoughts on it. I've got some thoughts on it, but I think because Tim and I already know where we stand, Mike, have you seen this footage yet?
This is the first time I'm watching it.
Okay. What are your thoughts? Let's start there. What do you think about what you just saw? Let me wind it back.
It looks very voxel based compared to other.
That's a good way to put it.
Physics engines that even just like you're talking about, like the Euphoria engine and even Battlefield, whatever engine they use now. Even Bad Company 2 is like the ultimate standard for physics, in my opinion. But it looks like they're using, so sticking to voxels, but it looks like they're doing it in a way that they want to keep the compatibility, they want to future-proof their work, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, well, it can't be voxels in most engines. Engines have to be designed with voxels,
right?
And it obviously can't be that, right?
But it honestly, I like it, but it has this weird mix of PS3 era just forwarded to today, if that makes sense.
Sure. I mean,
what do you mean by that?
Not in a bad way. It feels like.
Well, elaborate on that. What do you mean?
I'm trying to find the words.
So here's what I said. Maybe this is what you're saying, possibly.
Yeah.
What I said I think it looks really good. It definitely is going to take a lot of computational power to control that many objects moving and doing so accurately. Realistically with the gravity and all that good stuff, making sure they don't clip with each other, etc. and so on. It looks really good. But to me, it feels like not once did they show like when like that door that exploded. They showed it explode 3 or 4 times, and every single time the whole door came down. Not once did only a portion of it come down. And so to me, everything feels like it's a puzzle piece, and it's going to break exactly the same way every single time. It might break.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get into. Is that it feels like it's predetermined or pre-rendered how it's going to work out.
Which it still looks really good, and I think ultimately the majority of the people aren't going to care. But like what I was telling Russ before it started was their Unreal Engine showed off their own physics engine called Chaos in 2019, and in my opinion, that looks better than this. And
the other side of it is I can see because I imagine it's also up to the developer how they want to implement the Havoc engine and how they want to assign it to very specific sequences or very specific things in the game. So Havoc just doing it this way, that's just how they want us to do it. But let's say, any developer down the line decides to use the Havoc engine, and there's a predetermined sequence where like they have to blast through a door, but it could be a different outcome every time based on where you hit the door. Yeah, they just have to implement that themselves.
So that is much more in the vein of, say, Euphoria, because Euphoria was very physics based in the sense that like where you hit determined how things broke apart. That's what was really cool about that engine. Havoc definitely doesn't do that, and I do agree with you guys in the sense that it does look, I guess, kind of puzzle piece-ish. We can't say for sure whether or not the same things are going to break the same way. Speaking to the door,
not without playing with it.
That door scene could be literally the same explosion, just seen from 3 different angles. So that could be why it looks like it's blowing up the exact same way, because it is. But we don't know that. What does make me excited about this engine, what makes me love what we're seeing, is the sheer amount of rubble, like just the insane levels of it, and how well it's interacting with everything around it. The collision physics of all of those little pieces, the skulls, even like I would expect to see skulls like jump around and like we've seen in past where there's a rain of items, say in Skyrim, right? If you drop 1,000 skulls out of your inventory in Skyrim, even
they just like bounce around.
Yeah, they're insane. But the physics for the skull trap in this even look really well contained, really incredibly accurately calculated. And while it might be that it's very scripted in how these things interact, it still looks good enough for the amount of like again, going back to Battlefield, right? One of my favorite moments that I've ever had in any video game ever came from Battlefield Bad Company 2, where I was sniping.
Those were so fun.
I was sniping from the top window of a 3rd floor building, and I was taking people out, and I see somebody. I literally put my sights on somebody, and I see him call in a mortar strike, and I'm like, that's coming towards me, because at this point I've racked up like 13, 14 kills against the enemy team, just taking them out. And so I'm like, this guy's gunning for me. I blap him, and then I hear mortar strike inbound, and I'm running through this house, running down the stairs as the ceiling's blowing up, the wall's blowing off. I'm running towards a wall, about to jump out a window. It explodes, and I go out the blow up wall as the building comes down. Completely unscripted, multiplayer moment, one of the most amazing single moments in video game history for me. And like, Havoc engine is responsible for that moment. So there's a love for this engine that is just so deeply ingrained that I'm very happy to see them push it even further.
That was
than
back
that.
in like the 360 era.
Yes.
PS3 360. And it's so disappointing that they moved away from that.
Yes.
Like, why?
Yeah.
That was what made the game so much fun. The only in Battlefield, line that they had that was so good.
Yeah.
Even Battlefield now, they really toned down the damage and like the environmental change capability. Because like in Bad Company 2, you could just straight up fucking delete the house if you wanted to.
So like there was this duality.
You can only blow holes in walls. And
there was the duality of, I think it's the M203 grenade launcher that attaches to most M platform rifles, right? In Call of Duty, it's the noob tube. In Battlefield, it's the pro pipe, because you have to be smart about it, because you use that to get around people. You don't use it for kills, you use it for terrain navigation. And it works so well at just taking out a wall, catching a guy off guard, and getting him in the back with a couple of shots from the 5.56. So like, I think part of why we moved away from that is because Havoc, they haven't necessarily left the playing field, but they haven't been updating.
They haven't kept up.
Yeah, and this looks like the update that might help us see more games, again, like Battlefield Bad Company, where we get that destructibility back. Guerrilla, Red Faction Guerrilla, another prime example. Like, give me back the environmental destruction.
Although, like I said, with
2 remastered now.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, 100%. EA, get on it.
Or just make me a number 3.
Yes,
and make
Bad Company 3, do it.
Right. So the thing is like we mentioned with Unreal Engine's Chaos Engine, that's been technically available since 2019. So you think we would be seeing more games like that, or at the very least, the way I believe Red Faction did it, they sort of like custom built the Havoc engine, like they significantly altered it. If I remember correctly, when I was reading about that particular game, the developers actually made the engine so realistic, they actually had to learn real world architecture so their buildings would stand properly. Right. And so that way, when you took out actual supporting walls, large sections of the building would come down. Now, of course, they limited it due to the limited power of PS3 and 360, but even still, there was impressive, serious realism in that game.
I think the developers of the finals had to do something similar, because if you blow off the side of the building, only that corner of the building would start to sag, versus if you blow up the supporting beam, the entire building will just come down on top of you.
Yeah. Maybe it's just too much work for most people. Maybe that's why they don't do it. And I think if there's a middleware like this where they can basically just drag and drop it, kind of like FSR, then they don't have to think about it, and they can just play with it.
And that's the exciting part of seeing this come back. I don't need it to be phenomenal. I need it to be good enough that people can just easily implement it and run with it, and we can get some great content out of it. So I'm hoping
it's definitely possible, because at the end of the trailer, they specifically mentioned Unreal Engine 5.
Yes.
So it's clearly going to be a middleware for Unreal Engine 5. So hopefully developers can just take it and do exactly what we just said.
Yep. I had a thought, and we're going to digress a little bit back to the NVIDIA talk we had a couple episodes ago. It would be really interesting to see a physics system like this using NVIDIA's AI architecture to determine the binary code of how everything should be like interacting with one another in games. That would take so much load off of the GPU and the CPU if we could come up with a way to do that.
It could. Look, I'm not against AI per se. I don't like
its place.
It's all about marketing for me, and I feel like the way it's being marketed in a lot of products is very predatory. It's very walking the line of being like. I was talking to my dungeon master about it during D&D, and he's like, I'm sure NVIDIA's lawyers are very incredibly well knowledged about what constitutes false advertising. Absolutely. And they're walking that line with every freaking sentence that comes out of their mouth, and I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I believe in clarity, in forwardness, in getting your message across as clearly, as concisely as you can with as few words as possible.
Be transparent, and don't lead me anywhere near away from the truth. That's
NVIDIA went from selling you hardware to selling you a service. They sell you a service, and you need this hardware to use it. Is what it
Didn't you post an article the other day, or from Lioness Tech Tapes or whatever, that the 5090 is actually a pretty decent improvement?
I'm sure it is.
Raw performance, it's a 20. I think it was a 25% performance.
It's not just hardware; it's hardware and service.
It's 25% faster than the 4090, but once you start talking about like workstation usage and
outside
AI
of gaming, where does it? Then
it starts to make more sense to go with that card over like the 40 series. But really, what it comes down to is if you're not on like a 20, if you're not on what would be the equivalent to a 2080 Ti, I wouldn't go to a 5090. At all. I would look at the 5080, and a couple of the other tech YouTubers even said the 5090 looks like a great fucking card. It is a great fucking card, but this isn't the card the majority of the people will even need. But it's just this new shiny thing, and it will most likely end up in workstations more than anything else.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Replacement.
Yeah, Jesus, the Titan. God damn, I forgot about that card. That card was incredibly overpriced. Holy shit.
Do you want to know why it was incredibly overpriced? Because it had 2 fucking GPUs on it. That's why.
Well, I think if we're done touching on Havoc and the greatness of seeing them kind of do an update, we've got some other stuff that is potentially going to be crazily overpriced. Tim found an article recently that somebody is saying that's right. Yep, somebody's saying they need to raise the cost of new release video games to not $70, not $80, not $90, $100, but being $1. So what I've got here for those of you that are watching, and if you are listening to this, I encourage you just to pause where you're at and go to YouTube and watch this, because I've actually got future footage sent to me directly from the future. Yeah, I got to send that directly to my hard drive of what a executive of a video game studio might look like if this were to happen. So if you join me on screen here, you're gonna see it right now. It's a little grainy because it's weird. The conversion ratio from the future to our past technology, the character on screen might look a little big. But I promise you, that is a future EA executive on screen.
Okay, so it is a little more nuanced than what you stated.
Yeah.
It's so there's an analyst from the Epilion group. I'm sure the guy's name is Matthew Ball. Basically, I saw he had a lengthy presentation at the State of Gaming in 2025. And it was published recently. And basically, he states that there's actually quite a few game makers and publishers and stuff that are hoping that GTA 6 would price their game to $100. And the reason why is because it'll allow other developers and publishers to increase the title of their, or the cost of their game. Or like, say, as a term example, let's say Helldivers launched to 40. So that would allow them to launch it 50 instead of 40. Or, these 70 games to launch at 80. The developers can still not be 100, but they'll be able to charge more for them because now GTA got away with doing 100. And I'll be honest with you, I would fully expect if GTA was stupid enough to launch it at $100, I think everyone else that plays, or everyone that plays the game would majority be stupid enough to buy it.
I agree. Yes.
I think a lot of people would be upset, but they would still spend the money.
Yep.
And they would still sell near 100 million copies like GTA buying it.
Like, here's the real question though. If they set that precedent, and if other developers are stupid to say, well, GTA 6 did it, so we can do it. Yeah, I think anybody else is going to buy into that bullshit. Because I know me personally, I'm going to look at that $100 game and go, nah, fuck you, I've got back catalog. I'll wait till you're $15.
Just this generation alone, creating the games to $70, that automatically, there's only a $10 difference. I was totally cool with 60, but 70, I'm like,
it feels more. It feels significantly more.
As a little more, yeah. So there's only games I had intentionally waited on to drop to below 70.
Yeah.
Below 60.
Especially after spending the entirety of like a COVID lockdowns and like people were going after Valve and Apple because of the 30% fucking publisher tax, whatever the hell that they
were. Yeah, because of that.
Also, yeah, and then also games that came out like 30. Jesus Christ.
For talking fact, man.
It's from before and I'm from the security.
No, games that came out like I was gonna say for like $30 10 years ago are still $30 on Steam, but it's not a physical item. It's a digital fucking item. So the 30% would make sense if it was like physical media. It's if you think of like fact of Blockbuster Day, restocking fees were very common because again, it's physical media. It is cheaper now to store digital media than it was 20 fucking years ago. And they talked about this, in the Epic Games case that there's, I forget what the percentage was, but it was like ridiculously cheap.
Yep.
And
I think you can go as cheap as Reaper's head. Revenue share, assuming you do you use Unreal Engine, you launch them first, like that.
Yeah, and so do the whole like the financial conversions, all of it. But witnessing all of that happen during the lockdowns, and then they're just like, hey, let's charge $70. So you're fucking what?
Well, and the reality too is a lot of those games that have it hit with that $70 price tag haven't sold well. Dragon of Hell, I like the Star Wars Outlaws.
You just gotta bring it to Zelgard every chance, any chance. Like, hey, bro, I'm throwing hands over here. Call me Floyd Mayweather because these hands ain't stopped. No, but like, yeah, it can a lot of these games, they haven't sold well, and part of me wonders, is it a bad game, or is it a bad game, or can your prices? That extra $10 feels right. It feels right.
It really does.
Yeah.
The other thing is that I feel like if we were in a moment where there was no digital and we were still just purely on physical media,
I'm so glad.
then the $70 could be then the $70 could be a little bit more of like, we have to do this because the like work it takes to develop the bucket media is, we're gonna do Blu-ray stuff becoming too small of file size. And then also in just looking at things, once you consider Blu-ray can hold 400 gigs.
Yeah.
And it also depends on like the type of like disc layering that they use. There's a lot of variable is wild. But the other side of it is I could totally see Rockstar just GTA 6. It's $100.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that Rockstar games and GTA is picking up that they could get away with it like this.
Oh yeah, that's what I said earlier.
Yeah. And then if like if fucking Activision re-releases Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 for like the fourth time and they want to charge $100, everyone is gonna like literally burn fucking stupid out.
Yeah, no.
It's not crazy at the point.
I would almost find it absolutely hilarious if Rockstar just came out and they're like, yeah, we're going to be $40 for GTA 6. Like, just as a giant troll and a fuck these videos, you know?
Online version is just like 20.
So here's the question.
They did that with their dead. They did that with their dead.
Here's the question I have to ask Tim. Because we're talking about this, right?
And Russ, someone just mentioned in chat that says the music is still playing and it's making it hard to hear us.
Oh, what the fuck?
Volume's too high on the music part.
I thought that was muted. That is my fault.
That sucks being 41 minutes in, but...
that was only for this section, so...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the old intro that I thought I had muted. Thanks for catching that, Tech. I did not know.
Yeah.
Mike, have fun editing that out. So
I couldn't hear it either, but yeah.
let me ask you this, okay? So we're talking about this $100 price tag. This is why, first of all, before I get to that, the reason this is a bad idea.
It's too expensive.
Blatantly a bad idea. Tim, how much did the PS5 Pro cost?
$700.
Okay, so 7 games.
A disc drive.
7
Before
games.
A disc drive.
And you've spent the cost of a console, a top line console. 7 games in one generation, and you cost the top in like that's too fucking much, man. That's 7 games. How many games come out in a month? How many games are coming out this fucking quarter?
Jeez, too many.
That being said, there are games out there. What if Naughty Dog's new game launches and they say we want $100 for Intergalactic?
Russ, I'm just going to delete this episode. Gone from my hard drive. It's gone from the Google Drive. Sorry, it's gone.
That's all right. I've got it.
Judging by your question, obviously GTA doesn't matter to me. So for me, I'm like, yeah,
and that's why I'm posing the question of a game that does.
That's why you pose that question. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
If we pose a game that I do care about, Horizon or whatever.
Yeah,
it would definitely be one of those things where I would be conflicted. I don't know which way I would go, honestly. As of right now, if they launched, say the next Uncharted or whatever it is, the next God of War, because God of War probably right now is like my absolute favorite.
Okay.
It is,
okay.
There's absolutely nothing that would prevent me from playing that. $100, I would probably very begrudgingly give them $100 for that, like extremely. I would be upset, and I would do everything I could to be like, this is bullshit.
This man would buy the fucking horse armor.
Yeah.
God of War's Atreus
at the moment, at the same time, I'm not in that position. So
yeah.
No, it would be a very hard ask.
It's a hard hypothetical for sure. Mike,
let's extend that question. What if let's say the game that if it's the next God of War or whatever comes out and they charge you $100, obviously like me, you're probably gonna just do it, but cry at night because you had to do it. What if after the cost goes up, they add, like, the story becomes 20% more. So God of War Ragnarok was like, what, 60, almost 70 hours to complete?
Just the story, sure.
Yeah. So now what if they add more to that and the story becomes 90 hours or 100 hours? Would you say that exchange adds the value?
It just depends. I mean, a lot of people, I mean, you can look at plenty of games that have released in the past that give you 400 hours worth of content, and those were still, base price, right? So, I don't know. But also, just to actually address DW bout, I actually never heard that before, so I quickly Googled it while we were talking, and apparently the CEO of Take-Two Interactive actually straight up said no, it's going to be sold at full price at launch.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was brought up as a question during.
Yeah, someone asked them, and they were like,
was bringing it up as like a thing.
Got it.
Yeah.
I had just responded to him in chat too, and just said that would be interesting because that would put them in competition with MMOs like Final Fantasy 14, right? So that would be interesting.
What ended up happening is when GTA Plus was, before it was announced, there was some data mining stuff that happened in GTA Online, and everybody kept seeing something about a GTA specific subscription. So a bunch of people went out and they were like, oh, GTA 6 is going to cost you a monthly amount. No, it was just GTA Plus is what it was. And then I guess at some point, I think investors actually asked them about it, just as like, what do you think? Will this bring us more money? And they were straight up just like, no.
If we go back to the topic of this, there are other analysts that have basically, like, so one guy from Circana, which I've heard of them. I didn't hear about that other studio before, or organization before this whole GTA stuff. But this guy basically said, sure, anything's possible, but I highly doubt it. He doesn't expect that to be the case. And I mean, just like the little conversation we've had about the games moving to $70 being a shit ask, I don't think any single person has ever been like, fuck yeah, $10 more. I mean, when that happened,
fuck yeah, $10 less.
yeah, right. When it happened, I remember not necessarily defending it, but understanding why. Because if you look at PS2, the PS2 era, when games were $50, there had been such a massive time frame from the $60 to $70 that development teams, blew up. They went from 70 people to 400 people, or in some cases like 700 people. So I get that they're way more expensive to make. So for me, $10 more was like, I get it. I don't like it, but I get it, So if they moved up to 100, I wouldn't get it. No, because if you look at all of the way that most engines are made these days, they're meant to make things easier and speedier.
Workflow.
So exactly. So I don't see how or why.
Yeah.
Unreal Engine 5 alone was like
price increase.
So the workflow savior, because when they announced the 5.0 update, it was all like AI can copy and paste and randomly generate the rest for you, and it's like,
it randomly generated, it would be amazing too. It's not just like a shit random generation.
And
it's light years better than the way that No Man's Sky does it. No Man's Sky does it pretty cool.
Beyond that as well, I think one of the biggest revolutions of UE5 was the ability to quickly jump in and test your games, right? Like before UE5, you had to render your game, you had to build it, and then you could go in and test it, and then you had to come back out of it and continue to build. UE5 is just, hey, let's build this, test this code, jump in, okay, code doesn't work, jump out. Like that alone, the ability to jump from gameplay to back end that quickly definitely alone probably saved a ton of time. But the weird thing here is this chart that I have up on screen. We haven't really talked about it. I couldn't find one that fit what I was trying to convey with this price hike that they're talking about and what that would mean. But I did find this interesting chart which shows the cost of consoles adjusted for inflation. And if you look at this, relatively speaking, short of the Ataris and the Intellivision from the past, most consoles have stayed within the ballpark of each other. Outliers being Sega Saturn and the PS3 at launch, but most of them have stayed very close to that $500 price tag across the generations. PS5 Pro is even still it's only slightly higher than Xbox One in terms of initial release costs. So it's still not crazy outlier. And when you consider the hardware itself hasn't really changed in price, you have to wonder, why is the game changing, or why are they projecting or asking for so much more for the game? And development size is part of it, but we've also seen them continuously fire thousands of people.
Yeah.
So like
it was something like what, 25 to 30,000 people last year alone.
It's a ridiculous amount of people lost their jobs and are still trying to. Dude, my personal friend is still trying to find work almost, what now, 9-10 months after Bungie layoffs, almost a year after. I mean, he's expanded his search, but when it comes to the gaming industry, you're fucked if you get laid off. You either have the money and the leverage and the know-how to make your own studio, or you kind of stop making video games. And that's gotta suck. Like, as somebody who had to give up on their dream as a mechanic for a long time because of my own injuries, if who you are is a game developer, if that's your passion, and I don't think there's a single person that works on a game that doesn't have that passion, to lose the ability to do that because no one anywhere is hiring for your skill set and everybody's being laid off, that's fucking awful. So the idea of this $100 price tag is just insane. I hope GTA isn't stupid enough to do it, and if they are, I hope no other developer is stupid enough to follow, because you won't get the sales. You will not.
Yeah, you'll instantly.
I can see them doing a pre-order for $100, but you also get early access to the game, so you can start playing single player sooner, like every other fucking developer does now.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
And it also comes with like online bonuses and like different things that you can do.
But Star Wars Outlaws did that, and the people that paid for it were pissed because there was a day one patch that wiped their entire file. So not okay.
Although that is not
also, we're talking about like Ubisoft and Rockstar games.
It's still, dude, it's one of those things. Early access, I will never pay for early access when it's like that insane of a price tag. Buying Pantheon is a different thing, right? I bought Pantheon knowing I was going in as a test player. I was going into it knowing there will be wipes, like it's an MMO, it's in early access. That is different than early access for a game that's like, okay, you're going to get 5 days early access. That save file should have never been wiped. That bug should have never been like that. That alone put such a bad taste in my mouth for early access for games that are coming out like a couple of days later, that I personally feel for those people and will never pay extra money for early access to a game. I will wait until release date. But that's just mine.
Yep. Well, shall we move on to quickfire?
Yes. What do you got for us? Let me switch our background back here for our Scrooge McDuck fans, so we can get that in our background while we talk about some quickfire news. Tim, what do you got for us?
Yeah. All right. So the first couple of things I have are all about Xbox, because some things are good and not good. Going back to Ninja Gaiden 2, oddly enough, the PlayStation, or the Xbox version, I'm sorry, removed all of the female characters from the trailer that they released for it. You can actually look at the Xbox trailer and the PlayStation trailer, and they're different. It makes no sense to me, because those characters are still going to be in the game. They're a major part of it. You can't remove them. But the Xbox version, the trailer has no female characters in it at all.
Wait, which game?
Ninja Gaiden 2, the remake. Yeah,
weird.
It's a pretty strange thing to do, because again, it's just the trailer. So the only thing I can think of is it goes back to Satya Nadella, the CEO, where the directive came out. I think it came out like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, where they actually strongly encouraged the removal of curvy females from their games. So that's the only thing I can think of, but it's still stupid because they're going to be in the game anyways. I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, that's as dumb as the team that doesn't want to bring the Dino Crisis like game to PC because they're afraid of nudie mods. That's the same kind of stupidity.
It could honestly just be an explanation as simple as like Microsoft did that specifically for the Xbox to get more room for marketing on like broadcast TV versus.
That is an argument.
Because the other thing is that broadcast TV pushes commercials like that, has started to push commercials like that past like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. Eastern time. So Microsoft doing it that way, they can get that like 12-hour window where they can just push that commercial nonstop.
Maybe. I don't know.
Potentially.
But they can still, what about they can still push the PlayStation version trailer that has the females in it? But just like I told Mike
I guess
a couple of episodes ago, thanks for ruining the other bit of quickfire news, Russ.
You're welcome.
The Dino Crisis-esque horror game Code Violet is skipping PlayStation or PC because you're all perverts and they don't want nude mutts. Basically,
I mean,
that's
in
more or less.
That
that is basically what they said, like verbatim.
Yeah. In their defense, the moment the original
game comes to PC.
Well, yes. Specifically, though, I saw this comment literally on the trailer for it when Marvel Spider-Man, Insomniac's Marvel Spider-Man, the first one came to PC. One of the first and the highest rated comments was, "Sweet, I can't wait to swing around as a naked Mary Jane." And I was just like, "Yeah, okay, that tracks. That tracks."
Yeah, I mean, personally, my personal view is I don't care.
Yeah.
The game doesn't look great anyway, but
are they self-publishing or do they have a big publisher?
that I'm not sure of. It looks like a
Because
small.
if they have, I was gonna say, 'cause if they have a large publisher, they might be forced anyway. So
Possibly. That actually does go along with some other bit of news. The Final Fantasy VII Rebirth just launched on PC. And
Yeah, I got
Rex
some
has been playing
thoughts.
it.
I'm trying to.
He's been playing
It's
it.
going on.
And it basically instantly was pirated 10 times more than it sold, like instantaneously. Numbers came out for at least how much one particular website was pirating it, and it almost makes me wonder, like, obviously Square Enix, and when people release games on PC, obviously they know that the games are going to be pirated no matter what they do.
Yeah.
Actually, this actually did spark some conversation between developers and stuff on X, and they were like, "Yeah, this happens all the time. No matter what we do, we're going to lose almost all of our money launching it on PC because everyone's going to freeze and pirate it. So what's the point?"
Debatable.
It depends on the game. If it's a smaller game, then that's probably more likely to be the case. But also, if it's a game that's single player only, where there's no de novo and there's no multiplayer, then it becomes easier to pirate it. I mean, because wasn't Kevin cracked like within an hour or something like that?
Who knows? Here's my thing, though, right? There's Rocksteady years ago did a brilliant fucking thing, and I feel like developers have forgotten about it.
I know exactly what you're
you know where I'm going with this. And I feel like developers has forgotten about it, or just it was a lot of
There's a
work
couple
to
of
do for a fucking joke. So Rocksteady, when they released, I believe it was Arkham City, they actually themselves released a cracked version of the game for free on a crack site. It was the whole game, completely playable. One big caveat: Batman's bat zipline didn't work at all. Didn't work at all. An incredibly important part of the game for traversal did not work. Could not function. So the game was completely playable, but you don't want to run around Gotham on the streets of Gotham as Batman. Let's be real here. So here's my thing. Like, you're right. You can't combat. You can't. Like, de novo is incredibly expensive. You'd have to pay for that for the life of the game. There's a lot of argument on whether or not it reduces quality of the game in terms of frame rates and things of that nature. It's incredibly costly.
The evidence that it does is there. I wouldn't even say
there is. Yeah, they debate it. De novo debates it, but of course they do, right? Like, of course they do. But the fact remains, like, you're not going to beat pirates. So why not lean into it and build a fatal flaw into your game? Maybe you can pirate Final Fantasy VII, but this key aspect of the game doesn't work. I haven't gotten anywhere to get to a key
swing your
aspect.
sword.
You can't, whatever. Like, you can't,
that,
you can't level up. You are level 1.
Yeah,
like,
there you go.
take away the level system. Like, literally pull it out of the game. And if you can find
Now,
a way,
of course,
go ahead.
people would still pirate the official game. People would.
Well,
buy
that's
it
the thing, right? Is there? You would have to have some way of like verifying files of like, okay, you know, there are other ways to protect against piracy than de novo, but that seems to be the thing everybody goes to. There was, back in Diablo 2 days, there were literally hidden files, which is the only reason I found out hidden files were a thing, that kept you from copying the physical disc. You could, they wouldn't transfer, they wouldn't write over. So like, you could copy the whole game, it would start and then it would crash immediately because it didn't have these locked files. So, you know, there are other ways, and I feel like if you just put some thought into it and instead not try to stop it, but try to hamper it, try to hamstring it, make it unplayable in a sense that it's just not fun to play if it's cracked, that's how you stop it. But that's just my opinion.
And the other thing is that you can do what they did with Arkham City, but I'm gonna wrap myself out. When Arkham City came out, what was it like? I think I was like just graduated high school or something like that. I didn't have the fucking money to buy it. I pirated it. I immediately noticed that the fucking grappling hook didn't work.
Yeah.
I didn't go to the troubleshooting forums for the developer because, like, if you're pirating their game, why the fuck would you ask for help on their forums?
Yeah, that's pretty stupid.
But I went back to where I downloaded the game from, and everyone was like, yeah, this is a thing with the DRM. Just wait a little bit. Literally not even 4 days after that, someone released an update to the crack that patched that code, and all of a sudden the fucking grappling hook worked.
Yeah.
So, like, there's gives and there's takes with that.
It's
You're never going to
yeah.
100%. Yeah. The other thing I want to point out is the EU actually did a peer-reviewed study that I think it took place over 10 years, from like 2013 to 2023, where they took all of the numbers of pirated games across multiple Steam, Epic, any game store on PC, and they went out and they kind of like, I forget how they did it, but they managed to figure out the conversion rate of people that pirated the game that then bought the game. And 90% of the time, people that pirated the game turned around and bought the game, and there was an argument that started, an argument in the sense of like, it's a peer-to-peer debate that
I believe that review.
It was some high number. I don't remember.
90 seems high.
It was some ridiculously higher than you would expect it to be.
I would expect somewhere around 25%.
I think so. I don't remember the exact percentage, but the idea is that all those people that pirated the game, that they were able to track down the conversion rate to who purchased it, also directly correlated to the statement that piracy produces more sales on PC.
I'd be interested to read that.
I'll go back and find the article, and like I'll post it in the video. I'll give it to you.
Yeah,
Russ,
put it on
Spotify.
Yeah, we can put it in the description.
We can
put it in. Put it anywhere. But I think there's an argument to be made that just because you pirate a game at first doesn't mean you have zero intention of buying it, right? I've pirated games to make sure they run well and play well and they're fun, and then I go, okay, I'm going to delete this, and when I have the money, I'll buy it. That's I almost treat it like a extended access, I guess, right? Beyond what the demo is that they've clearly optimized, that they want you to play to make you think it, so that's just my take. I think there's plenty of people out there that unfortunately don't have the liquid income to buy video games, but should they be locked out of having games because of that? Especially if they're going to go up to $100 a game. So there's an argument to be made on both sides, but I do think that there is something developers can do to combat it besides just de novo. What that is exactly, I don't have the answer. It takes smarter people than me, but just my thoughts. That was a very slow quick fire though, so let's move on.
Very slow one. Yeah. So one of the other bits of news is Assassin's Creed or Ubisoft released a new Assassin's Creed Shadow story trailer, and it is done a lot to make people very excited about the game. Pretty much all around the world. All around the world, the pre-order numbers for the game like shot up. Almost every country went to the number one pre-order. US jumped from, I think it was 11 to 3 the spots, but it's got a lot of people excited about it because the story trailer looks great, and that's honestly how they should have started their marketing push, if you ask me.
Yeah, I feel like they fired their marketing director and got a new one or something, because they've been better. They've been a lot better.
Going back to Final Fantasy VII Remake, the third remake or third entry has already confirmed to be done with the storyline, and they also confirmed that they won't be reducing the amount of mini games that it has compared to 2, which a lot of people are happy about, I believe.
I've heard it mixed ways. I haven't played a lot, but what the game has allowed me to play, and I say that because it's crashed in the 4 hours of gameplay that I have on Steam 17 times, not joking, 17 fucking times. I counted them all. Just for this episode.
Yep.
I will be writing when I get a chance to actually play the game and get somewhere. I will be doing a first impressions review. I don't think it's fair to do the first impressions review now based on the fact that the game is failing, because that doesn't mean the game is bad. That means that the port was bad, in my opinion. So that does not seem fair to hold against the game, even though it's incredibly infuriating. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. Rebirth.
Next,
Rebirth.
Rebirth. Speaking of other games, the only game we didn't announce or talk about from the Xbox developer showcase was Doom: The Dark Ages, which to me actually looks really good.
Yes.
Maybe it's because it's got a fantasy setting. I don't know, because I didn't really care too much for the 2016. I did play it and I beat it, but it just didn't really grab me, and so I never played Eternal. I have it, but I never played it. And this one actually looks pretty solid. But however, this new one doesn't have a multiplayer, and they did so to, quote, really focus on a good single player, which is kind of disappointing when you consider Doom has always had a multiplayer. Like, it just feels like it should be there, but I guess we'll see if that works for them, because I do feel like there might be some people that skip out on it because of that.
I just want to digress a minute. I found the study, and I was confused by the percentage, because earlier in the study they talk about how the percentage of people that downloaded, which is where I got the 90% from, the 90% of the people that own X item illegally own it. It's a huge fucking study, so I'm not going to sit here and read it, but
that's probably a good idea.
To summarize, you can find this stuff. I'll send you the PDF. It's hidden online because the EU commissioned the study, and then it ended up not proving what they wanted it to prove, so they just didn't fucking post it. But basically what it was is because the EU hates pirates, right? So they were like, yeah, let's provide a study that says that pirates ruin sales of protected content. And then the study proved that pirates don't ruin the sales of protected content and enhance the sales. So they ended up not publishing it.
Funny. Well, speaking of digital media things,
good enough.
EA is finally shutting down their shitty Origin launcher. Although if you for some reason still have a 32-bit system, you're SOL, and you'll need to upgrade to a 64-bit system in order to keep the library that you
get off Windows XP, bro.
Dude, right? Even XP I think had a 64 version. You said 32-bit, and I'm like, Windows 97?
Yeah, exactly.
Vista?
Who the hell uses a 32-bit system anymore?
Vista.
But
I think Vista.
What an machine? Holy shit.
Well, some more bad news for Sony. Almost immediately after last week's episode, where we talked about them canceling 2 of their live service titles, they canceled another one. This one, however, was not in development by them. It was in development by NetEase, and it was the Horizon MMO. My understanding for this one is actually NetEase is going through some hard times, and so more than likely it's being canceled because they can't continue to support it, not necessarily because Sony can't. Sony was like, well, I guess if you can't make the game, it just won't make it anymore. That's my gut feeling based on the information that I read. But it's still happening. Although the Horizon multiplayer game that Guerrilla is making is supposed to be untouched, meaning it's still coming. So, yeah. And then the last one I've got for the free side is apparently last year, which we actually talked about this poll last year, there was a large portion of developers that were not making PC versions of their games. And it was done again this year, or a year after the last study. And actually, apparently more people are making PC games than ever before. This new poll shows that there was a 66% jump compared to last year, and there's now 80% of developers are making their games on PC. Now, of course, they didn't poll every single developer, but it's a massive jump compared to. I want to say they polled 3,000 different developers. It's a high number, right? So, if you're a PC player, you can still be a cheap bastard and pirate your games.
Hey! I resent that remark. I only do that.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
We can still be the master race that we are.
Yes.
And, best place to play. I will say this, the bit of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that I have played has looked gorgeous for the most part. And Queen's Blood is pretty cool, but it's not as cool as the game from Final Fantasy VIII or from KOTOR, but it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
It's fair enough.
Yeah.
I wanna do it one last time.
Okay.
Just specifically to mention the numbers because I found the exact moment.
Okay.
So this is specifically with EU residents. They reached out to everybody. This is based on the last game that was illegally pirated. They reached out to 55 people that pirated the last 55 games. And they were like, would you be willing to pay the full amount for every game that you pirated? So like the last 55 games you pirated. 55 of them, 1,976 of them responded yes. To 55 people.
So
55 players.
It's an illegal thing to pirate, right? And especially in Europe.
Yeah, definitely.
And do you think it's possible that these people just gave them a bullshit lie to say, yeah, I pirated it, but I went out and bought it right away. That way it might be.
So they mentioned that there is no specific way to determine if they already repurchased the game after pirating or if they never repurchased the game. But apparently the proportion is 55 for the displacement, and the respondents came back with 1,976 saying yes.
Interesting.
That they would rebuy the last game.
How much? What percentage is that? 55%.
Yeah, the proportion is 55%. I assume so. This graph is super fucking weird.
Anyways, we are going to head over to our Patreon side where we're going to talk a little bit more about, well, that new trailer from Assassin's Creed and what our thoughts were and how we feel in the light of the recent announcements and recent trailers, as well as some rumors leaked by Newegg and other retailers regarding the Switch 2's price and potentially some games. There will be other content over there as well. Of course, we talk about the upcoming games for the week, and you get this podcast a day early over there. So at least the audio side. The video side, you get it Wednesday. Deal with it. If there's nothing else, Tim, take us out.
Tell your mom I said hi.
Have a great night, everyone.